grain-based distilleries are concerned, because grain-based is a late starter in the whole scheme. So let's hear Arushi Jain give us her perspective about the grain-based sector. Arushi.
Thank you, Mr. Verma, for inviting me to this massive platform. It's really a very big opportunity to present a perspective of grain ethanol plants on and our viewpoints, the way we see it. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Arushi Jain from Gulshan Polyols, and we have a plant in Madhya Pradesh, and we are supplying ethanol to OMCs. We are also setting up a new dedicated facility and to produce ethanol from Madhya Pradesh. And I must extend sincere thanks to the MOPNG, the OMCs, the DFPD, ISMA, and all involved in this wonderful effort to make the significance of ethanol has already been highlighted by Sri Chaturvedi, how it is eco-friendly, it is the way to go forward. So let's see that what we have is here together sugarcane and grain distilleries are expected to produce about 1,300 crore liters of ethanol to fulfill E20 blending targets. So and currently we produce less than 15% grain ethanol, and this is expected to be 50-50. Very sometimes rightly identified by Sri Chaturvedi that there are many difficulties which can be foreseen faced by the grain ethanol plants. Let's talk about that as we move forward. So we must once again appreciate the visible intent of government in differential pricing based on feedstock, so which happens in our country only. So our government is offering, they're supporting the farmers by offering differential pricing of ethanol, even though the final product is the same. They're offering different pricing of feedstock to support the farmers, because we are ultimately an agro-based industry country. And regional development, they're focusing on regional development by providing minimum transport reimbursement, because the government does not want to load expense on fuel by transporting fuel itself. So the focus is on regional development. Then there is a priority to ethanol deficit states, which has been communicated over miscellaneous times. There is focus on efficiencies from large-scale operation. So that is a very clear vision we have seen effectively in many presentations, many talks, that there should be a large-scale operation, and we realize that economies of scales come from large-scale operations. Then there is clear priority to water-efficient crop. We have seen some better ratings to maize, and GST has been reduced from 18 to 5%, and this has only been done as recent as 2018, which is so recent. So the effort and the focus of the government is wonderful, and and it's very new. The entire support to the industry, while ethanol has been wonderful for all the reasons listed by Sri Chaturvedi, but the government's focus and its support has just come recently. And grain industry is very, very nascent, and we have too many budding problems, so which I would briefly touch upon in my talk. Wonderful effort of extending interest subvention scheme, then availability of, ease in availability of term loans, and many states are also joining the cause, and they are also extending support and incentives to multiple producers in their own states. So it has turned out to be a socio-economic movement. It is focused on development of farmers. Rightly said, the best returns from sugarcane come to farmers. And where are the grain farmers? So finally, the focus has come to the grain farmers too. Even they need to be having good returns on their produce. And finally, our government has looked at them, and we will be processing their grain. Hopefully someday there will be courtesy look on us too. So there will be parity of income for farmers across country and sectors. There will be parity of income for grain processors just like sugar processors. There will be development of rain deficit states, which typically happen to be producing grain. It's only the water-rich states which have the the good luck, the fortune of of producing, of harvesting and cultivating sugarcane. Then government is clearly focusing on utilizing water efficient crop. And they have also created an avenue to consume surplus grain from Food Corporation of India by allowing that to be processed for ethanol. This will naturally lead to boost in production of protein-rich animal feeds. So currently, our country is everywhere malnutrition, right? So when we have more consumption, that's when the productivity starts. That's a cycle of efficiencies. That's where the efficiencies of economies and consumption rolls in. When there is no consumption, where is the efficiency? So yields will increase. The farmers will be encouraged, and there will be more animal feeds. We will have healthier cattle, because right now we don't necessarily buy so much animal feed, protein-rich animal feed. There will be boost in production of edible oils from corn and rice bran, which we are at this moment importing. So if we look at grain ethanol plants, so yeah, they are highly vulnerable. They are very vulnerable because ethanol is one single product for us. There is no alternate product such as sugar. Potable alcohol market is already saturated, and there is no dual mode adaptability for us. So when we say that we are committed to the ethanol industry, we are truly committed, because there is no option to switch. Our fuel, our coal is purchased from outside. So, we are vulnerable. We do need some support. Our commitment needs to be recognized, that we do recognize the vulnerability, yet we are hand in hand with the government. So parity pricing for grain ethanol, how can we expect support? Please observe some general statistics floating around. So average procurement price of sugarcane ethanol works out around 55 rupees per liter, as per the availability, sir. And average procurement price of grain ethanol is approximately 51.65. It's only about 12% of grain free market grain ethanol and 1% of FCI ethanol. You combine these figures, and that's where you arrive at weighted average. And of available ethanol, less than 15% is from grain feedstock. So there is scope to incentivize pricing for grain ethanol. So we are vulnerable. We are dedicated to produce ethanol. So we need some support here. So there is ethanol from corn as feedstock. The government is clearly focusing on converting of corn into ethanol. But so corn to ethanol conversion is low because the starch content in comparison to rice is low. Steam and power cost to produce DDGS is higher because the fiber is higher. So, there is a scope. If you want to promote corn ethanol, we need to identify a mechanism, and we need to remunerize the ethanol from corn as feedstock. Then once again, a big applaud to the government for timely listing of upcoming ethanol capacities. You see, the entire ethanol movement has been so patriotically taken up, and it is the need of the hour. We understand that, you see, it's been so popularized that every panwala wants to set up a grain distillery or to produce ethanol. So we so appreciate people who have been in this industry, and we've joined the effort. So we really appreciate that finally there is a list at least available of the intended upcoming capacities. So this could prevent a lot of wealth destruction. Our country has many times witnessed built up of overcapacity everywhere, lots of plant and machineries being built up, everything being purchased at higher prices, and ultimately a lot of facilities turning into NPAs. And you see, sir, there is minimum execution time is 2 years. So before anybody knocks at your door, it's 2 years later that somebody comes to your door and says, I want to supply ethanol to you on the program promised and promoted by the government. Now, where do I take my plant? So why do we want to, why, as a government, as a citizen, as a country, why we want to put ourselves in a situation where we land up supporting so many people, so many investments to save them from going bust? So we really appreciate this entire noble thought of at least listing down the intended ethanol capacities. So we should maybe think about controlling the promotion of this industry in a certain way, because we are looking at this industry for scales of operation. We are not looking at it as a cottage industry. It is a massive industry, sir. So we need to really rethink that, some protection and some promotion could be controlled and some protection could be extended. So there is a lot of curiosity in the minds of participants of EOI, which closed on 17th September. So I'd like to really raise it here. So the initial intent of TPA was to avail, ISS and term loans at subsidized interest rates. But after certain revelations, is TPA only to avail term loan with ISS? Or will it become some kind of a contract or a license? And while in a free India, we are trying to move away from license. So how is it placed? These are some questions in our mind. I don't have answers for them. So will there be correct assessment of serious and advanced investors? So there is a concern regarding self-evaluation marking in the EOI. So there are some points where it says, that what is the feedstock? What if I make a false claim? What if somebody else was to say there's a green fuel and they were to switch? And what if you did not complete in the time you said you would complete in 1 year, 2 year? So would there be a fair ranking? These are some concerns, which the serious and advanced investors have in our minds. So there is a genuine concern for in-progress expansions of sugar mills in UP and some other states, which seem to be surplus and dependent on the deficit states. So can we really neglect them? So where will those capacities go? So somebody has to win, because sugar mills are a stronger partner, and will they have the ability to crush the grain industry? I don't know. Concerns of ethanol producers. So success of E20 and and higher blended ethanol fuel is a concern in our minds. So there is a talk of electrification of vehicles, and there is the concern that how adaptable will the flex fuel and the consumer, how fast will the consumer adapt to the concentration of multi-blend of fuels. So will we also have a petrol pump in India where we will choose that this is a E10, E20, E85 blend? So will we also know that my car's engine can receive such kind of a petrol? So and how soon? If we say the transition is to happen in 5-10 years, so in that time, will the technology become redundant and electrification of vehicle will supersede? So these are many concerns that of the producer, of the investor, that how successful this will be. And there is certainly a concern for oversupply of ethanol, and there is a dependence on one single buyer, and there is a dependence on one single buyer for ethanol at the end of the day, and lapse in any tender filing. So if there is a lapse anywhere, then what happens? So do we sit with our operations stay put for a year? And because this happened, that, our systems are still evolving, and because there is a gap right now, so things are still falling in place and we are being heard, and there are solutions. The secretary himself is attending our day-to-day concerns. So but so these systems need to be developed more. So then there is whether there will be sustainability of conversion margins. So you see, grain prices are very volatile. We don't have a fixed sugarcane, like how sugarcane is in industry. The sugarcane procurement price is fixed. But so our industry is very volatile, and we are, so, and however, the ethanol prices are fixed annually. So how do we cover that volatility? And raw material availability. So you see, this can be a concern. It's a concern everywhere. Everybody is addressing this, that in a food short deficit country, then why are we looking at converting grain into ethanol? Because still it's the damaged food, which is only 4 to 5% that we are converting, so, but people don't understand, but it is still a concern for the producers as well, that and we request that the FCI window should always be open. We should always have the option that to convert our regular supplies from open market to FCI, that we should be always allowed to convert that and purchase from FCI. That if there is a surplus in FCI and if there is a price parity, the manufacturer should be given that choice. There has to be an option available to us. And then we have a concern of oversupply of DDGS, because that is a raw material that we produce. And how do we flush that in the market? Because right now people are not buying, they're not consuming enough DDGS. So that has to be addressed. So there is no compatible consumption of CO2. The kind of capacities that we are building up, where are we going to store it? Where are we going to let it out? So these are some concerns of ethanol producers. So there is sugarcane ethanol units versus grain ethanol units. So what this is I'm trying to address is supply period of 6 to 9 months versus supply period of 12 months. So what does the gap of supply period mean for ethanol users, which is OMCs, and for grain ethanol producers, which is us? So will there be shortage of ethanol in the gap period, or will there be surplus availability in the overlapping periods? So what does it really mean? So this is a concern for us. So then does dual mode mean alternate feedstock for sugar mills when molasses is not available? Or will it eventually convert into 2 independent operations within the same campus? So, who's stopping anybody? So it is the grain industry which is single-handedly committed, dependent on ethanol. And we don't have any other alternates to produce something else. We don't have an alternate to go on dual feed. So, when we do have a strong supplier, who are we contesting from? We need to look at some protection here. So some generous consideration. That's what I can say, that because we don't have so many adaptabilities, we don't have sugar, we don't have dual mode. Our facility will be a single mode facility, and it will run 12 months. That is a commitment from us. And how does the shortage, the gap play out? So I don't know. So these are some questions, so which are revolving, crowding our minds. So well, there are some evident results of ethanol initiative, so which are a great boon to the industry. There has been technical development, steam and power and water efficient processing have come in play. So we used to consume much more water to process. Now our technology is much more efficient, and we are able to consume less power per unit and less steam per unit to process the same amount of final goods and recycle water. And then the scales of operations, there is mega scale of operations have come up because of economies of scale. And there is a single product, a single product, there is no conversion, there is no switch, there is a demand. When there is a demand, when, and there is a single product, that's when the economies of scale happen, because that's how how to process it. And, you need to master the efficiencies, and you need to master that no breakdowns and no lacunas. We have to have flawless operations. And mega scale of operations have come up. So that is a wonderful news. We are able to now design plants which are of global level. A plant of like 200 KLPD used to be like a mega plant in some time, but it is the MOPNG and the OMCs, when they circulated these ideas of this level of plant operations, is when we started conceiving them. So they showed us the way, and there was a way. We started conceiving them, and there is an evident relief to sugarcane farmers and the sugar industry. It's many congratulations to Sri Chaturvedi for a wonderful performance of the company, which is very much in public limelight. And there is a ray of hope for grain farmers and grain processors, that we will also have a good, we will also have a say, and we will also be heard. There will be a consideration for us. And I think that's all I had to say here today. So many thanks to ISMA, many thanks to Shri Tarun Kapoorji, guest of honor, and esteemed speakers and audience, event organizers. So thank you so much for giving me a chance to present our thoughts on a perspective from grain ethanol plant. And it's very young, the industry is young. We don't have stories of grandfathers to tell, so we have a lot of roadblocks to fight our way and make it sustainable industry. And we are very hopeful. We are looking at the sugarcane industry to ultimately follow that model, that we would become that sustainable. And the government of India would recognize us as a very vulnerable entity at the moment, and provide us the sufficient sustainability. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arushi. I think a very forceful and a very determined